Hello Year 9 and welcome to the fourth lesson of your English Literature Poetry Sequence Study in Storm on the Island by Seamus Heaney with me, Mr. Smith. And today's lesson asks the question, how can I analyse Heaney's exploration of the power of nature in Storm on the Island? So we are building directly off the work we did last lesson when we annotated the poem with the idea of the power of nature in mind. And we're going to use some of the images and phrases that we picked out in that annotation in today's lesson as we think about how we actually analyse poetry. So I'd like to remind you of the definition of analysis, which is a detailed examination of the parts that make up a whole and the way they fit together, to take something apart to understand it more deeply. So if you dismantled your phone to see how it worked, you would be analysing it by looking at each part in separation from the others. And this is also related to the composition of a piece, perhaps a poem or a story or anything else, which is the ingredients of a whole, the way in which a whole is made up of those ingredients. So analysis allows us to understand how something is composed and how effects are achieved. And this takes us on to our activity, which is all about show, suggest, and symbolize. So here's our old friend the iceberg to illustrate for us that we have the explicit or the immediate meaning of a word, phrase, or image, which is what we're being shown, and typically there's one ingredient interpretation there. And we also have the implicit or possible meaning. And this sits below the surface and is much deeper, much bigger, and you can say a lot more about this. This is what the words suggest or symbolize. There are multiple interpretations to be had and many possibilities, and it is up to the reader. And it's up to you, as an analytical reader of English, to express your ideas and explain how you've come up with those ideas in a way that will make me, as I read your answer or listen to what you're saying, think, yeah, okay, this person's got a point. I see what they mean. And that's what English is really all about. It's not so much about there being right answers, it's about there being answers that are the best explained. Now, if we think about the quotations and the phrases that we might want to use in this activity, we come back to the key phrases highlighted last lesson. So on the screen now you can see several quotations which all relate to the power of nature in some way. And each of these can be taken apart and analysed in detail, which is what we're going to do today. You can come back to this slide anytime you need to help you out in terms of remembering the quotations, but you also have these on your annotated copy of the poem, so you might want to pick these out with a star or an asterisk or something. Right, now my show, suggest, symbolize example took the quote, "We are prepared, we build our houses squat," which means that you can't use this quotation, so sorry about that. But I hope you'll agree it's worth it because I get to show you a really good example of how to take this apart. Let's begin with shows. Shows the houses are built specifically to withstand the storms that hit the island. So one sentence to handle shows what is being described here. Okay, low squat houses, fine. I've linked it to the power of nature straight away, so I'm kind of making a point at the same time, and that's show done. So the tip of the iceberg, well taken care of. Now it's time to go deep. Suggests that these storms are frequent and very powerful if the houses have to be built this way. That's just me using my sort of common sense almost. It could, here's a nice possibility word there, also indicate that the islanders accept nature is more powerful than they are because they have had to adapt to the storms. So the houses are built to withstand the storms because there was nothing that could be done to stop the storms. This is humans adapting to nature. The declarative, "we are prepared," however, might suggest that the islanders feel confident that they can stand up to nature thanks to human skill and intelligence. So I've got a bit of terminology there, declarative. I've used a small part of a quotation as well. And this allows me to suggest with might a third possible interpretation. The suggest section should always be the biggest section, and you really want to go for as many different possible interpretations as you can. Finally, I round it off with symbolize, where I linked things to the deep themes of the poem. This symbolises the power of nature to shape people's lives, but also the human instinct to control the environment. And I've actually managed to link it to two of the ideas related to the theme of the power of nature. That A, nature is powerful, but that B, humans will try to control nature. This analysis takes me right the way down to the bottom of the iceberg, takes me right the way down to the deepest ideas attached to the poem. And this is exactly the sort of thought process that you need to be able to follow when you analyse poetry. And so, you are going to choose a quotation from the poem, not this one, and you are going to analyse it, giving yourself at least 6 minutes to do so, producing either a mind map or a short paragraph like this, or a list, however you prefer to do it, which will allow you to analyse in depth. So take some time to do that now. Welcome back, and we're going to round things off today with the plenary. So you've completed your analysis, and what you need to look for in that analysis as you self-evaluate is the following. 1. Have you correctly copied out the quotation? This might sound really basic, but people make this mistake all the time. Your quotation must be copied out so it looks exactly like it does in the poem. 2. Have you written a clear shows sentence? Have you made one single point of what this thing shows? Have you included more than one suggests? If not, go back and add another one. Have you clearly explained symbolise? Again, if not, if you haven't made a clear link back to the theme of the power of nature or one of our key questions from the last lesson, then that needs to be done. You need to improve your answer by including that as well. And finally, have you been able to identify the terminology used in the quotation? If not, take some time to figure out what it is. And even if that means going online, Googling the poem and actually finding out what terminology is used there, that's not cheating. That's helping you to be better at English. So do it. When you can put 5 ticks next to your work to say each of those 5 things has been done, this lesson is over. Thank you very much.